Hello all and welcome to episode 83 of the 3 for 1 Sky Fantasy Podcast by fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. My name is Fergi and I'm joined as usual by my co-host Paul McAnulty. Paul, how was your Sky weekend?
Yeah, it was okay, thanks, Fergie. I can't remember what rank it was last week, so I don't know if it was a green or a red arrow.
You've got the tiniest of reds. You've gone from 43rd to 45th.
Yeah, so it was okay, I think. I had a couple of extra players, knowing that I had a couple of extra Arsenal players in my team. So I thought that I might do well at the weekend and then probably falter, especially tonight. I think it's going to be the big one for me.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, Arsenal seemed to just dropped off a cliff. They were on fire, wasn't they? And they just seemed to have absolutely fallen off. For those with Gabriel, Ramsdale, Saka, people like that, do you think it's time to jump off soon, or because of because they've got lots of fixtures left for the rest of the season, do you think it's worth staying on them for volume alone? What are your early thoughts on that?
I think there's still value in Saka, and even Gabriel picked up passing bonus at the weekend, so he did get 5 points. But I don't know, they've got so many injuries just now that I wrote in a Telegraph article a couple of weeks ago that I thought that it was time to jump off Arsenal there. I should probably heed my own advice on the Sky game as well. Particularly Gabriel, I think he'll make way for probably a Chelsea defender for me.
Okay, I had a small red arrow. I think it was 149th to 159th. Nothing much to report. It's been an incredibly quiet week, hasn't it? Well done to those. I can see Ian Parents in the chat who jumped on the other Bruno on Sunday. Paul's congratulates Ian between gritted teeth. What a move, Paul. His 8th and 9th career goals. What do you think of that move?
No, I mentioned this on Twitter yesterday. I think you have to put yourself in the position to get lucky. And there's merit in Bruno being a Sky pick because of the tiers anyway. So I don't begrudge someone getting a decent haul out of a player. I mean, the amplified element of the points haul is maybe, well, is a sore one to take, but his ownership didn't kill me. No. Some personal battles in many leagues didn't help me out, but no, I think he was a solid pick, especially those that brought him in. I think the play was to bring him in back on the Everton game on the Thursday night, and for those that had brought him in then, I've reaped the rewards and caters for good planning, I think. So.
And the other obvious massive haul was Cristiano Ronaldo on Saturday in the evening or afternoon game against Norwich. Obviously, for those with Kane, I think we mentioned it last week and the week before that potentially if Kane didn't start, I think United had like a 3 for 1 over them, a 3 for 1 over a few teams actually, and it was a definite option. I was eyeing it up, and but obviously with Kane, with Kane, the early game confirmed the starting. It just wasn't the move for for people with Salah and Van Dijk and that sort of price point. It was the wrong time to move off because they've obviously got United on Tuesday. For those with Kane and Son, even if one of them hadn't started, could have been tempted to move over onto Ronaldo. But hat-trick, home to Norwich, one of the best players ever, scoring against one of the worst teams ever in the Premier League. It was in the stars, but the kind of team structure didn't quite lend itself. Be interesting to hear in the chat if anyone did jump on that move, because you would have been absolutely flying. I didn't even think, right? And I could have done it in the B team, and I should have, but I was so focused on the A team I didn't even think. But yeah, well done to anyone who done that. Absolutely unbelievable. For any new watchers and listeners, you are very, very welcome. If you haven't subscribed yet, please press the subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner of the screen and set the alerts so you don't miss our podcast and live streams every week here on this channel. Also, please press the like button if you enjoy our content. We have Clean Sheet Wipeout. We have got a whole host of content creators in the chat with us this afternoon. Absolutely fantastic.
Business end of the season.
Business end of the season. This is it. Clean Sheet Wipeout, working from home today. W4, Ian Parents on lunch at work, so he's going to join for a while at least. John Maloney, Charlie Monkman is in the office. Planet FPL. James, great to have you with us. This is a rarity, being able to jump in live welcome. Also, Dan Cox says, hit the button, Fergie. Just reminding me to press live, which I do forget to do from time to time. Glenn Murray, Brownie, Billy Fraser, FPL Sparta, Kieran, John MacArthur, Windy 1965, John L, Off Spinner in a Hurry. Everyone with us this lunchtime. Great to have you with us, guys. So today we're going to look at the points of the weekend. We've already started to touch on a few of those. Look at the new top 1K ownership and the key points from the season so far. Actually, we're going to look at the points scored season so far. We'll look at transfers remaining, preview next weekend's fixtures before we take on the masses of Twitter questions. Thank you so much for those who've sent them in, and look at the updated mini leagues. And from now on, we will also feature the overall leaderboard as well as the end begins to draw in. John Maloney's posting in the chat as well. Ronaldo has been confirmed out this evening due to his family issues. Completely understandable. Absolutely horrendous news on Cristiano Ronaldo. We obviously, wish he, send our thoughts to him and his family. You can't even to begin to understand kind of what he's going through. So we've touched on a few players' points. Ronaldo and Bruno. Forster scored 15. Bednarek and Pontus Jansson got at a 14 point as well. Pookie been going under the radar recently. Kieran Dowell, who I've got to be honest, I'd never heard of before the weekend. Trossard back in form, and Norgard. Anything jump out from the weekly points, firstly, Paul, for you, apart from the two we've mentioned?
If you listen to the Planet FPL Sky Pod last week, James was suggesting that a small Southampton block could be a nice differential. So interesting there. Kept a clean sheet, and also, as you say, Foster and Bednarek 15 and 14 points respectively. At modest prices as well, 6.4 for Foster and 7.2 for Bednarek. Norgard, I'm surprised that he dipped as low as he has done.
He's solid, isn't he?
Another 11 points, picking up the consistent tier tackles, especially with that Man United game that people might not want to use transfers, bringing in Ronaldo or Bruno. I thought his ownership would be higher than the.
I think he was massively popular pre-overhaul, and then there was that big switch onto Ramsey, wasn't there, at overhaul, I think. But yeah, he's one of those players. They just prove it time and again. These kind of players and it was Dallas last year was exactly the same, right? He was, incredible pre-overhaul. Loads of people whipped him out. He just kept on scoring points. These kind of players are just gold, aren't they? You just leave them in like 2-2, 4-2, 11, 2, 4, 4, 5. Leave them in all season. Use your transfers elsewhere, right? It's a lesson we try and tell ourselves every season.
Having him and Ramsey would allow for a defensive upgrade to a Van Dijk or a Trent as well, from kind of one of the £8 to £9 million defenders.
Incredible. Let's take a quick look at the top 1K ownership. Harry Kane still top, 92.5. Following his blank. It'll be interesting now because Spurs only play once now until Sunday the 1st of May, and some teams play 3 times. Some, massive teams play 3 times in that period. You can also argue that his game next Saturday away to Brentford is probably trumped as a captaincy for Cancelo home to Watford. So we may see a shift on some Spurs players. I'm taking Kulusevski out this evening, I think, for Matip. We'll touch on that a bit more later, but it'd be interesting to see what happens with Kane. Cancelo 84.6, Salah still 83.9, Pope 74.3, and Bukayo Saka 71, who is another one who runs short on games soon. And we'll touch on fixture swings in a minute, but there are some big fixture swings, especially towards Chelsea over this next week or so, which may be interesting. Anything jump out at you, Paul, from the ownership?
Well, you can see Bruno Guimaraes kind of infiltrated the top 20 there, just at the bottom, 14.4. So that'll be people just sat just outside the top 1,000 that captained him on Sunday, and maybe a few new admirers of him as well. Jared Bowen must have picked up more suitors at the weekend there as well. Yeah. I think he was on 20% before the weekend. So I think the time's gone for me on Bowen and West Ham. They don't have any extra fixtures as well. So he'd be someone that I probably would be keen to get rid of, I think, if I held him.
It's going to be interesting this weekend now, as I say, because a lot of those highly owned players, there's a bit of a fixture shift coming on Sunday. I know Ian's mentioned it in one of his questions, away from certain teams and onto other teams. I can see, actually, if I just go to Ian's question quickly, because it's very, very relevant. He said, with the remaining fixtures all but set, you expect this Sunday to be the day where more transfers are used than any other for the rest of the season. And he also asks, are we now seeing more of a case that the tortoises will overtake the hares during the last few game weeks in Sky FF? So firstly, just to point out that from Sunday, Chelsea will have a 4-1 over Man City, which is quite interesting here. That is massive, right?
Yep.
In terms of in terms of a swing. They also, hang on, just need to make sure I'm on the right thing. They also have a 4-1 over Arsenal. They also have a 4-1 over Leicester and Norwich as well. But Arsenal, Leicester, Newcastle as well. So those with Bruno may want to, may decide to kind of take points and hop off. But 4-1 is big, especially for Chelsea defence, right? Is it something you're kind of eyeing up, Paul, from Sunday?
Yeah, I think I'd mentioned on last week's pod, I think Reece James is going to pull in quite a few new managers over either tomorrow night or on Sunday. I think he'd be really popular. He was at 1.9% last week when he was flagged, and I think that even if he plays on the right of a back three, then he's guaranteed passing bonus. So you do lose an element of his attacking threat, but then his passes ramp up anyway. So you're getting for 8.9 million, you're getting what you get from what you'd expect from a passing defender from a big team. So yeah. There's loads of value there. I think he would be the one, if your budget stretches to that I would earmark. I'm going on the basis that Rudiger is already at, was it 48%?
Yeah,
so
go high. And Silva's actually still at 20 as well, which is interesting. It'll be interesting next week. What we'll do next week, we'll look at that Chelsea EO next week, defensive EO, which is probably looks like it's under 1 at the moment, but I would guess between between 1.5 and 2.5 by maybe this time next week. But we'll have a look.
Yeah, and to answer Ian's question, I think that it probably will be most popular day for transfers. I still think there's an outside chance that on that single Brentford versus Manchester United day that could be the most popular day for transfers too. I don't envisage many people missing it based on if you wanted coverage but didn't want to rotate your premiums to get Ronaldo or Bruno in, then I could see people taking a punt on Brentford players that we mentioned last week was Eriksen, even Norgard, but Eriksen, Norgard, Tony are all options. I think that in Buemo, I think the majority of Sky managers will make a move. And because it's a Monday and not a Friday single game day, and because all your players will have played in the weekend leading up to that, I still think that that's going to be a really popular day for transfers too.
Agree. Let's have a quick look then, Paul, at the total points so far scored for the season. Just into the top few. So Salah top 263, but he has tailed off, hasn't he? Especially since the first half of the season. Cancelo 245, Van Dijk 217, Laporte 212, Son 208, Trent 204, and Alisson 200. So they're the 200 club. No massive shocks there. Son maybe for me. He's a funny player because in Sky for me, because it's normally the big out and out talismanic strikers, or it's the big centre backs normally who tend to get these points, right? But Son is in there on merit. He's been absolutely outstanding the last few weeks.
So the reason that I asked you to put up this slide was to reconfigure my thoughts around the defence and why I still maintain that not trying to find the next Bruno Guimaraes, but trying to find the volume of fixtures for a defender of a premium team in transfers is still my preferred.
Yeah,
it's still my preferred play. So if you look at the top 10 there, 6 are defenders. So that's consistency. I knew that we don't look at this slide often throughout the season, but what we've done now is that we've converged back to to the mean of what we'd expect to happen over the course of a season. And we always say that we've often said that 5-3-2 is the way to go formation wise. And again, this is it. So defenders tend to be cheaper than certainly forwards on premium teams, and the majority of midfielders from the premium sides as well. And what this shows is that you don't even need to take into consideration points per million to work out the value in defenders. You can see that they are the top scorers and the most consistent stream of points. You don't often get the 25-point hauls from a defender either. So this shows the consistency in which the defenders score. And I still maintain, like you had mentioned earlier on, this 4-for-1 looking from like Man City to Chelsea, that opportunities like this till the end of the season, if you've got average or above average transfers, is by certainly no way a poor choice of how to use transfers.
So our teams for next season, Paul, then are pretty easy to go off from game week 1. 5-3-2 formation. Find a couple of budget enabling midfielders, a la Norgard and Ramsey. Four premiums at the back, and maybe one, which you use for captaincy, or kind of rotate around between a 5-3-2 and a 4-3-3. 2 big strikers up front, Haaland and Salah for next year, maybe. Let's just say for example, and then use your transfers around the edges for captaincy. It's an easy game.
Do you know what? Yeah. Do you know the problem with that strategy? And that if you knew who the budget enablers were, that strategy would be perfect. But they don't come to light until maybe, I'd say, like game week 6, 7, or that's usual. Obviously, there's going to be some outliers to that, but it's finding those budget enablers and finding them quickly.
It is.
I think it's one of the most important plays in Sky.
And hopefully, if Rudiger, just for example, is priced properly next year at 10.2, for example, then it will be hard to get to that team anyway, regardless, right? And it looks like Haaland is probably going to City. Who do you choose then? I suppose it's a case of get your, I don't know, Van Dijk, Cancelo, Rudiger, whoever else, get in your either the 3 or get in the 2 and then rotate around the strikers. But
this is probably one for the pre-season pod, but I'm going to look more intently at midfielder slots from promoted teams and have a look at the tackling bonus potential of those style of play, maybe to try and pull one of them out early, and even captain them if there's a single captaincy game day, instead of thinking Mitrovic from Fulham.
Exactly.
As our defensive midfielder. Was it Tom Kearney? Remember, he hit passing bonus. Yeah. I might be exaggerating when I say this, but it felt like he hit for like 3 out of the first 4 games of the season, a couple of seasons back when we were looking at the stats. So trying to draw out one of those.
I think as well, it's so easy on these captaincy days. Like, look at Bruno now is a really good example on Sunday. Whoever's gone for Bruno has shot with the ranks, fantastically well played. But for those of us who are going for, I don't know, maybe Tony or Mbumo, etc., over Norgard, even if those on Mbumo like yourself, Paul, got that goal and got that shot bonus, whatever it was, and got that 18-pointer finally. I don't know the numbers, but I would envisage that Norgard, without that, regardless, just leaving him in your team all season, would have probably outscored him, or at least outscored him in terms of points per million per game. Yep. So even that, you just leave him in, right? Just leave him in, and even if Tony or whoever is next season gets the brace, which is quite rare, there hasn't been many hat tricks this season at all, is there? We're always thinking with this: what if they score a hat trick? What if they score a hat trick? You're going to own those kind of players. There's not many highly owned players in the league who can score a hat-trick, right? Kind of Salah, Kane-esque. Outside of them, there's not many, is there, really, right? And, just time and time again, we have this conversation at the end of every season, don't we? And then we get drawn into the romantic, Pookie's going to score a hat-trick, really not. And, it's interesting thoughts ahead of next season. Let's have a quick look at the average transfers remaining. So this was as of Friday. Top 10, 4.8. Top 100, 6.1. Top 1,000, 6.7. Top 5,000, 6.5. I think I'm on 6 at the moment. So I'm roughly there or thereabouts. Go on, sorry, Paul.
I can't see any of that really changing over the weekend. I don't think there was, Bowen's ownership went up a little bit. Bruno Guimaraes went up a little bit, but I'm not convinced that that's the majority of it. Wasn't those entering the top 1,000 as opposed to
maybe those scared of Son as well, because I got to be honest, I was scared of him.
45. Yeah, he was like 42 and 45. Yeah. So
yeah, maybe down to roughly 6 average, maybe down to 4.5, in the top 10. But this is the thing on Sunday now, depending on how aggressive people want to be with their transfers, this 4-for-1 for Chelsea defence, obviously if it pays off, as we've seen before, right? If you own 4 Chelsea defenders and they own, and they keep clean sheets in 3 of those 4 games, for example, you're scoring over 100 points there.
It's 10 point, yeah. It feels like 10 points minimum for certainly the ones that are playing in the back 3.
Exactly. Let's have a look ahead to the remainder of this week. Liverpool v Man United. We already know that Cristiano Ronaldo isn't going to play this evening. Liverpool v United. Mohamed Salah is obviously going to be, is going to be the biggest captaincy option. Looking forward, Liverpool do play on Sunday. They're home to Everton, which is obviously a great game for them. They then have Newcastle, Spurs, and Villa. They haven't got many games right at the end of the season. As it stands, indeed, some teams have got 4-for-1s over them at the end of the season. But looking now, so I'm looking at Matip. I
know it doesn't matter because you'll see the lineups. I don't think he plays tonight.
I know Konate has been decent, haven't he?
Well, and it's the whole Matip can't play twice in a week, and because this is midweek, this is like their Champions League night. You would argue that Man United's tougher, even though Everton beat Man United the other week. You'd argue Man United's a tougher opposition than Everton at the weekend. I could see Konate and Van Dijk playing centre half tonight, and then Matip maybe comes in at the weekend again, and then Konate for the Champions League game.
Fortunately, it is a good hop on point for Matip on Sunday as well, because they play on Sunday as opposed to Saturday. So you do get if hopping off Spurs, for example, you do get the Brentford game on Saturday for Spurs. Where it won't make masses of difference, but I take your point, and it is a good point there.
I'm not in the know or have any predictions. I'm just going on a simple basis that's the way Matip's been playing the league games. Konate's been playing the midweek Champions League games, and
Wednesday 20th, Newcastle home to Palace, Chelsea home to Arsenal, Everton, Leicester, Man City, and Brighton. You guess Cancelo would be the highest, the best captain option here. Saying that, Brighton have managed back-to-back wins now, haven't they, over Arsenal and Spurs? They've definitely improved, but he's still going to be the best option, right?
I think so. There's arguments for Rudiger and Laporte as well, but if you want Cancelo based on his ownership, there's not many times where you see Man City's lineup till the end of the season. I was thinking of there's a question about differentials, and I was thinking about like an updated 5 differentials, and I was like, I want to put 1 or 2 Man City attackers in it, because on their day, like Mahrez can get a 20-pointer pretty easily, but there doesn't seem like any real nice hop on point where you see the lineups and then you can take a punt on someone like that either.
It is, and they're all fit, and they're still in the Champions League, aren't they? So it's anyone's guess. Foden looks to be the most nailed, just in terms of he seems to be starting every game, but even though he's most nailed, he's not playing as that. He's not getting many chances or scoring many goals, is he? So it's a tough one, that is. You're right. Thursday 21st, Burnley, Southampton. Nick Pope, 74% ownership. You'd be very brave to go.
There's questions about there's 1 or 2 questions about Pope as well. I still see him as a set and forget, and it's we discussed in a bit of detail last week about we had different opinions on goalkeepers pricing in this game, and you thought that the premium goalkeepers should be a bit more. But I almost think they should be a little bit less, because it just makes, even though when you're comparing them to defenders, and you can see in the top points for the season, there was, I think Alisson's in it, and I think Ederson's 11th, so he's just outside it. but I just don't see much more value in them. Well, the ownership speaks volumes, and I know it's partly to do with Burnley's single game days, but that's been a pattern all the way through the season, that there's been one or two popular goalkeepers, perhaps that weren't popular at the start. Like Ramsdale went through a phase where he was highly owned. I think Mendy, when Chelsea were keeping all the clean sheets, was really highly owned earlier on the season, and it seems to be dictated to by single game days and perhaps run of games as opposed to overall season point.
We'll look at Alisson as case in point, right? So we just looked at season points, and he's got 200 points. And no one's, well, sorry, I say no one, that's disrespectful, but we certainly haven't tipped him up, and his ownership, I'm assuming, is still incredibly low in the top 1k, yet he just keeps clean sheet after clean sheet. 9 points all the time.
The Sky Match Report writers do seem to favour Pope. Like we've seen it in the Leicester game where they got beat 2-0. And then more deservedly got man of the match at the weekend there as well. I see no immediate reason to get rid of him. They do have the extra game in one of the game weeks toward the end of the season, so they're not short on volume of fixtures either.
No.
If I was moving them on, I think Mendy might get the odd rotation, because I think Chelsea's run in volume of fixtures is the best out of all teams. But yeah, I think it goes. I think I would go for Ederson or Alisson over like Schmeichel. Just doesn't appeal to me, I don't think, even though the volume of fixtures for Leicester, you can just see he's getting saves bonus quite a lot, but Leicester aren't keeping many clean sheets because they just keep rotating the defence to prioritise Europe.
Whereas maybe Everton, for example, who do finish off with 5 wins, 5 twos at the end, because they're scrapping against relegation, for example, Pickford, they may just play for 0-0s, right? And Pickford could, he could be a better option maybe. Let's have a look at next weekend. 12:30, Arsenal, Man United. So we get to see, for those holders of Ronaldo, whether he's back or not. Norwich, Newcastle, Man City against Watford will be popular. Leicester against Villa, and Brentford and Spurs. Tough choice here between Kane and Cancelo, I would guess. Who's your money on at the moment, Paul?
Probably Kane.
Is that with the thing of Cancelo maybe rested?
Potentially. And I think Kane will probably be the highest captain. I know that at this stage of the season, maybe I should be thinking about a different play to jump up the leaderboard, but I'm still holding position in a few leagues. And therefore, I think going with the most captained option is still my personal preferred choice just now. And I think Kane will be captained more than Cancelo. So that's the way I'll be going.
So you're not tempted at all, either this evening or tomorrow, to take out Kane and go for like a 3-for-1 for Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea player?
I've got Son, and I was thinking of doing Son to Van Dijk potentially tonight, but I still think that when you mentioned the Liverpool player, you get the Liverpool player tonight, and then you get the Spurs player on Saturday, so it's 1-for-1.
Yeah,
and if
it is 1-for-1. You're right. Yeah.
And if I wanted to take out Son, I think I would, or Kane, I would probably just do it on Sunday as opposed to now. I'm more times, more information.
Same. On Sunday, Chelsea home to West Ham, Burnley against Wolves, Brighton against Southampton. We don't see the lineups, as Amandeep said, on Sunday for Liverpool versus Everton, so that Matip move is a bit blind. Who's your favourite captain of choice? Got to be Salah home to Everton?
Well, I'm not 100%. I'm not convinced that Salah definitely plays that game. Again, maybe more information will help us before then. And he obviously got the potential for a massive haul. And this is part of my reason why I'm swithering on potentially doing Son to Van Dijk and then captaining Van Dijk.
Hang on a minute. Can I just ask you what swithering is? I've never heard of that. Is that a Scottish word?
Swithering. I don't know. Is it swithering?
I've never heard of swithering. Maybe it's me.
Okay.
Anyway, go on. Sorry.
I'm going to Google it.
Swithering. I've never heard that word. It may just be me. Paul's live on Google.
In doubt.
Is it really? Oh, there we go. It's me. I've never heard that before, mate. Anyway, go on. You're swithering between
holding Son or moving Son to Van Dijk potentially Sunday, and then captain and Van Dijk. If there was an air of, I thought that Salah might get a rest, that is what I would consider doing. Also, as Ian mentioned in his question, I think it'll be a popular to move on to Chelsea defenders. So if you have 2 or 3 and then captain in one, you're getting 3 or 4 effective ownership. To be indecisive or in a state of confusion, to dither.
Dither? You said swither.
I know.
Oh.
I said the definition of swither, and it is in Scots.
Hang on. The definition of swither is dither.
But it says to be indecisive or in a state of confusion, semicolon, to dither.
Okay. Oh, so maybe it is a Scottish thing. John L says Swithering Heights, and Martin says it's a house in Harry Potter like that. Glenn says swaying. Gordon says unsure. John Maloney says dithering. No, yeah, interesting. That we'll have to find out the root of that. Just a quick note from Planet FPL. Great point. Cancelo is suspended, isn't he, for the first leg? So he will very likely play on Saturday. So
does that make him more likely to play? I could be overthinking this now, but what happens if you wanted the consistency of you play the 2 fullbacks?
He's been there. Well. I suppose you can argue for whoever you want, but for me, he's been their best player so far this season. They've been resting him for no reason. I might captain him on Saturday against Watford because I think it's more likely for Man City to keep a clean sheet against Watford there is for Kane to score against Brentford for starters, and obviously there's also that attacking thing as well. So I think I'm going to go for him as a bit of a. I don't think it's a gamble. I'm hoping that people go for Kane.
You've got Laporte as well, right?
Yeah.
So you'd have 3 side defenders.
I think I'm going to go for it.
Captain.
Yeah. Against Watford. Monday, Palace versus Leeds. So I brought Gallagher in a week or 2 ago, as with this in mind. Go on, what are you laughing at?
Loads of windows open on my screen just now, and I couldn't get off swithering.
Swithering everywhere you looked.
I was trying to find the fixture list that were running down in the slides, and I got lost.
You had definitions of swithering everywhere you looked. Brilliant. So Palace versus Leeds. A few still holding on to Rafinha. Some move on to Gallagher. If you didn't have a captain, Paul, would you be tempted to move on to one at all?
Palace have got an extra game at some point down the line as well, don't they? I think I would still move on to Gallagher.
You would, yeah. I think he's a really nice enabler. They got really good fixtures all the way to the end of the season as well, haven't they?
Yeah, he's got that kind of Bruno Guimaraes type. Well, he's a similar sort of Sky asset in that. Remember the game against, was it Everton, where he got the double and he got man of the match. He got a monster haul.
It's two.
I'm not saying don't expect that, but no, I think with them having an extra game, with the single game day being at the end of a game week, it feels like a nice jump on point. I think if I didn't own him or didn't have a captive for that day, if I had Rafinha, I probably wouldn't. But
Gehi, Mateta, maybe a couple of other players. If you're looking to be a bit different.
Yeah, Gehi, I've not looked at stats against Leeds for passing recently, but
really good point.
Traditionally, the centre halves didn't pick up passing against them. So,
really good point. Okay, we've got masses and masses of questions. I mentioned it earlier. Ian Parrin, firstly, are we now seeing more of a case that tortoises will overtake the hares? Should tortoises have a plural or a collective noun? A swithering of tortoise? I like that, Paul. If it's not one, it should be. Anyway, a gaggle.
I'll find out what it is.
Interesting. Do you think the tortoises, Paul, are going to overtake, or do you just think that it was amplified on the weekend due to the pick of Bruno and Ronaldo? Maybe.
I think if you see with differentials, I agree with your analysis on me in that I'm very unlikely to win the Sky game unless I tailored my strategy slightly to have the odd differential, because I think you'll need 2 or 3 over a season differential captains to probably win it. But I also think that rotating the premium defenders, where I'm going with this is that in this instance, the tortoises have more transfers. it's all about using the transfers wisely. If a single game day got put in, something moved and something strange happened. So a single game day came up that was Wolves versus Everton. Someone with more transfers may consider using a transfer in that game. And therefore, you kind of like, I would see that almost like burning transfers. Like, yeah, you've got the very odd chance of getting a haul from someone. Like, you could pick a centre half and they could pick up passing, clean sheet, and a goal from a corner or something like that. But as long as they're used wisely, I've always maintained that I think holding back transfers. We've always maintained that holding back transfers is a good strategy, especially for experienced managers that don't often make many mistakes like Ian. So
I'd be tempted. Joe, I'd be tempted honestly on Sunday to, if you've got, I don't know, 11, 12 transfers left, because the 4-for-1 that Chelsea have over other teams, it's not just like they have a 4-for-1 and then they have no fixtures and they're rubbish. After those 4, they then even out. They have the same amount of fixtures left even after that 4-for-1 as the rest of those teams anyway. I would be tempted to go for all 6 and put your season on the line for it, because I think the upside is ridiculous, whereas the downside, even if they concede in every game, they're still likely to get a number of passes. You're still likely to hold rank over that period and rise just through pure volume of fixtures. I think I'd be tempted to kind of do that if I had 11 or 12 left, and because if it comes off, and in those 4 games, if they keep clean sheets, so they're home to West Ham. West Ham haven't been fantastic recently. They're away to Man United, and then they're away to Everton and away to Wolves. I can see them keeping, a minimum of 2 clean sheets there, probably between 2 and 3, and potentially even 4.
Here's a question for you, Fergi.
Go on.
Maddison for Leicester has got an abundance of games before the end of the season.
But Chelsea have got a 4-for-1 for him over this period.
Yeah.
Sorry, is this the question?
Yeah, you're about to answer. He's popular. He's in 42% of teams now. I always try and avoid this thinking. I always reset my thinking, because it'll be in people's mind that they only just bought Maddison in recently. Yeah. So I try and avoid that and clear that from my mind. But do you see taking Maddison out? I think you've already answered it now.
100%. It works out. It dovetails perfectly, right? Because you get a 2-for-1 now for Leicester over Chelsea now, right? So they play Wednesday and Saturday. You then get a 4-for-1, in which time that Leicester game is away to Spurs. It's not even like, a home to Norwich game. And then you can jump back on the whole thing with fantasy, what we say time and again, putting yourself in a position to be able to get lucky with it. And this, I think this is a really good example of where you can smash onto Chelsea if you've got transfers in hand. This is important, and then jump back onto your Maddison. You could even go for Pickford late on if you want. You could even go for those got 4 or 5 fixtures left at the end. But the thing with jumping on Chelsea defence is even after that little run, they still finish off with 3 fixtures, which is more than Man City, obviously depending on when that Man City Wolves game gets rearranged. More than Man United, more than Liverpool. They still have 3 very good fixtures: Leeds, Leicester and Watford to go even after this run of 4, which is why I would be tempted to do it. I think it's one of those get your balls out, this is my time move for those with lots of transfers left, even those without lots of transfers left.
And for those female listeners,
sorry, obviously, thank you, Paul. Thank you for trying to make out like some kind of sexy.
I was joking.
No, I'm joking. Get your metaphorical balls out, and I would go for it, because these are the kind of times, it's that Man City January run that they normally get, which are season defining and which can catapult you. So talking about tortoises, using Ian now, just as an example. If you're sat in 250th and 300th and maybe you haven't had the season you want, or you're sat at 800th, you're thinking, look at Serge on Planet FPL, he's planning on going for the monthly. This will catapult you, even if they don't keep the clean sheets. Obviously, you need some luck with everyone starting all the time, all this kind of stuff. But these are the times of the season where it is absolutely season defining for me, anyway. For me, I tend to play the game quite aggressively in lumping on teams at certain times, and I think if I had the transfers left, I only got 6, so I'll do a couple. But yeah, what do you think, Paul? Or do you think it's I know you're not the kind of manager to kind of go all in like that. You'll probably hedge your bets a little bit, but
yeah, but I think that the Sky scoring system benefits the premium defenders anyway, and that's what we're talking about. That's what I've talked about a few times about rotating big defenders, and I'm thankfully I'm still 4 in midfield, so I can still make that move without having to make two moves to compensate for it as well. So,
and the thing is, they're so nicely priced that it's not like you're having to find a back five for Liverpool or Man City, right? They're all like, they're all sub 9.1 million or so, something ridiculous like that, and that's without any attacking returns, because players like Alonso and Reece James are, attacking return magnets as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
Interesting. It'd be interesting to check the EO for those. I wish I had more transfers left, Paul. I wish.
What were you going to say? I wish I had access to EO stats.
No, we've got them. Go to FF stuff, which is obviously where we're getting all this really good stuff from. Okay, we've probably answered a lot of questions there. Aman Tatler, when is the best time to hop on and off for elite defensive? We've definitely gone through that. And he also asks about Nick Pope. He's a season-long pick. We've answered that. We think yes. Tim Barry. Pope, unless you're going for like, jumping all in on Chelsea and, and going for Mendy maybe. Tim Barry, replacing Son with Werner, 0.1% in teams. Werner, what do you think about that at the moment, Paul?
I don't think it's a bad strategy. Like I'd mentioned earlier, I think that you need to win it. You need to pick some differentials, and you're not moving away from Kane and Salah, who are the highest owned, to be able to do that as well. So I like it. I think Werner's been playing well recently. I think he's integral to the way that Chelsea play just now.
I think I prefer Mount personally. I think Mount's probably also on pens if Jorginho isn't on the pitch as well. But just you can go all in, right? This is the thing of holding transfers back. Now is the time where you halve your rank easily by going in on going all in on these kind of players. You could go for Chelsea back four, Werner, Mount, and Havertz if you wanted, and hope they win every game 2 or 3-0. You are absolutely laughing, but and Mick Byram underneath, incredible fantasy manager, says not crazy at all. It's a type of move that can win things. Good luck. Good wise words there, Mick. We've answered Dampierre's questions about Pope. Sam just asked quickly, I'm 3 points off top in mini league. They have Salah, I have VVD. Should I hold or get Salah in? I know what I'd be doing. What do you think, Paul?
I'd get him as well, but I don't without seeing your team, it's really difficult to. He's the most expensive player in the game, so it's really difficult to gauge how you would get him in without seeing the team. Is it a case of transferring Kane to Salah?
I would do that. I would do that just because Liverpool have a 3-for-1 over Spurs. It's that Brentford game you cover with Cancelo captain. Like Spurs against United, Liverpool against United this evening, we haven't touched it an awful lot, but the way both teams have been playing, Maguire and Telles playing on the left of that defence. If Liverpool turn on, they have to win. They have to win. It's as simple as that. I can see them scoring 3 goals minimum.
Yeah,
I think every time I say that, it always ends up being like 1-0 Man United or something. But I don't know. I wouldn't take out Van Dijk for Salah, but I would take out Kane for Salah personally, especially because they're home to Everton on Sunday as well. Which again, they have to win. They
and then they're at home. They're away to Newcastle in the opening game the following Saturday, and then I guess you could move back to Kane on the Sunday against Leicester.
I think I would do that personally. Aman also asks, I'm hoping for a top 100 finish my debut season. Do you remember how you did in your first season in Sky, and who has helped you the most to become the elite Sky managers you are today? I am certainly not an elite manager, but Paul is. What Paul, how did you get on your first ever Sky season?
I finished fourth.
And who were your inspiration? Oh, was it in your first season?
I only played because I played poker in a local bowling club, and one of the guys was running a league, and I was like relatively good at other fantasy games, and thought that I could. At the level at which they were playing, I thought that I could. It was easy money, so I played. So that was the only league that I played in. Was 4 of us, and I finished fourth overall. The only content around at the time, so I didn't speak to anybody, was Luke Williams. And I don't even know that. I don't know that Will Thomas even ran the WordPress account at that time. I can't. Maybe he did. I can't remember. It was quite a while ago. It was a season Michu done really well.
Like 2014 was it? 2013, 14 maybe.
Yeah. I remember having Michael Kitely, who was a midfielder for Stoke, and they priced him up as a defender. I remember having him and Robert Huth. It was when Tony Poulos was in charge of Stoke. Anyway, yeah. So, I didn't have many inspirations or sought advice from many people the first year that I did it, but it felt maybe more like a couple of years after it started getting a lot more popular in terms of content and Twitter. And I joined. My name cropped up on one of the articles that Luke was writing on the Scout site at the time, based on me. Like, I think I was second in their mini league or something like that. And because it's an unusual surname, that he contacted me on Twitter. Maybe I'd liked this, one of his articles or something like that. And I joined a WhatsApp group with Dan Cox, Mark Edworthy, and a few really good fantasy managers and Sky fantasy managers. So, but I drew inspiration from a lot of those guys and started back and forth with ideas and kind of tactics for the game before there was a lot of content out there.
Yeah. I think in my first ever season, I didn't really know what I was doing. I played Telegraph and Dream Team the longest, and then joined playing FPL maybe 2012, 2013, and Sky probably about 2015, 16. Did do very well in my first season, but then, you know, as you say, forums, Facebook groups, all this kind of stuff, got to the Sky game a little bit more, and, you know, probably Luke, as you mentioned, his articles, Will's articles, Mark Edworthy's Sky podcast was just an absolute dream at the time because it was the only content out there. You know, but joining the hub for me with Sky was just an absolute, absolute game changer with Will and yourself. Luke Wilson was, you know, he's played a lot of Sky. I used to listen to yourself, and I think Abdul went on Mark Edworthy's. Obviously, Dan Cox, really good on podcasts, really good articles as well. And I think from all those, then, you know, I haven't had as high finishes as you. I've had two top 100 finishes, hoping for a third in this season. But I think as well, it's more for me, rather than learning to play Sky specifically, it's applying fantasy principles across different games. Obviously, Sky and Telegraph are very similar games. A lot of FPL overlap there as well. But yeah, since joining the hub, you know, well, all my fantasy games have elevated massively, you know, and I'm sure they will continue to. Doing the podcast as well, you know, talk it through every week like this, for me, is gold dust, because it forces me to look ahead. It forces me to look at, you know, fixtures and players and ownership and stuff, and then, you know, chatting it through with yourself and Dan and Ian and Liam and everyone else. You know, it really does bring it all to life, and as you say, chucking around ideas and stuff. And the hub WhatsApp group is something else, right? It's just it's so vibrant, and people absolutely love it, and everyone in there, you know, always does really well every season. So yeah, they're my kind of, you know, I'm sure I probably left someone out there. Apologies if I have, but yeah, it's my kind of journey so far. We've answered loads of questions on Chelsea. Liam's asked, Aman's asked, all on Chelsea. Loads and loads on Chelsea defence. We've answered on Pope, just having a look, see if there's anything we haven't answered actually, because we've done most. Billy Fraser says he's 24th overall with 11 transfers left. Take risks with punts or stick with highly owned. I'd jump all in on Chelsea. I would personally. I would think I'd do that. For you, Paul, what do you think?
You can rotate highly owned players as well, so that you create a differential for yourself. You create a differential for yourself in that.
Yeah,
in that way.
Yeah, by optimizing the team defensive EO rather than the thing. Yeah. Really good point. And FPL Spartans, you mentioned it earlier. Assuming your team is well set up with Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool players, and you have 6-7 transfers left, differentials in the next few weeks. He says asking for a friend. Clearly he's not.
So when it comes to the Man United Brentford game, I think a lot of people is going to be off Bruno now. And if you're looking for the ultimate differential in a one-game basis where the player has got previous for Holland, then like moving to Bruno could be a shout. As I say, I was looking at that question before I came on, and I was thinking, oh, there must be a Man City player somewhere that is going to get a 20-pointer, and I just would be nervous about picking one based on not seeing the team sheets at any point. But any of those Chelsea attackers, so most of the questions about Chelsea defence, other than Tim Barry's, obviously, you mentioned Mount earlier on, and he was one of the 5 differentials that I picked last week. He was like really lowly owned as well. I prefer him over Havertz just now. Havertz seems to be playing more off the left.
Yeah, he is,
as opposed to kind of playing what people perceived as a false 9. I guess he was playing the number 9 earlier in the season. So yeah, I'd say Mount. I probably still wouldn't do Bruno. Like if I had that many transfers and no plans to use them, I would probably bring in and take out Ronaldo again if he starts against Brentford, or go into one of the Brentford players if you prefer not to use 2 transfers in and out and prefer to hold someone longer term.
Yep, really good stuff. I still go for the thing of not going for madcap sort of captaincy. He's not, I'm not saying that Bruno's obviously a madcap one, but looking at the single game days there, Arsenal, Spurs, Palace, Leeds, United, Chelsea, there's nothing really where you think, oh, do you know what, that player could really do something in that game. I say I prefer to sway my team and pivot my team between loading up on players and then loading up on other players rather than that. As I say, I think that would be more my move.
If you were going to go for a differential captain, so I've not got an individual specific in mind, but you want to pick a date where there's going to be split captaincy. Like Sunday just passed was a prime example. Like Ian Parham would put a poll up, like he was gauging his thoughts. Like I don't think he was going to sway off going Bruno Gomes anyway, but pick a date where there's going to be a split captaincy, and I think that those days are the ones that where the higher upside and you minimise the risk by doing so.
I think, like I say, on Saturday, instead of going for Kane away to Brentford, I think Cancelo home to Watford, even though he's highly owned, you would guess he's not going to be massively highly captained. If Cancelo manages a 12-pointer, 14-pointer, and Kane blanks or get an assist, that's a pretty big, haul, kind of 9 or 10-point haul there. It's obviously all lifts and butts, right? But yeah, I think you're right, Paul. It's kind of identifying those opportunities. But yeah, again, looking, it's not. I can't see even like Burnley, Southampton, Palace, and Leeds. You can't really see something in there. Burnley, Southampton, Pope is going to be massive. Right? You're not going to want to go against him. Palace and Leeds, maybe you could take a punt on a trust that Leeds, capitulate in defence and maybe go for Mateta or something. But I think it's kind of what we were talking about earlier. It's almost burning transfers, whereas you could use that.
Scott Broja.
Exactly, where you could use that to bring in Thiago Silva for a 4-for-1 who could very realistically score 30 to 40 points in those 4 fixtures, which are obviously much more valuable, and he's a long-term pick as well. I should have mentioned earlier, apologies, in the in the kind of inspirations and things. Obviously, Paul from the Hub at Sky Player in FPL, he had he's very good at Sky. He had an incredible finish in FPL, and his intro pod with Planet FPL a couple of seasons ago, maybe 3 seasons ago now, was absolutely superb as well. And I think that actually introduced a lot more players into the game as well. Obviously Planet FPL got a massive following, and all the other content creators that we mentioned a couple of weeks ago. I think the community around Sky now is absolutely incredible. We've got a really good bunch of guys, who just love the game, incredibly educated, know how to play the game, know how to plan, know how to execute, and it's made it really, really difficult, but it's absolutely brilliant, right? This is what we're here for me anyway. I prefer that than like looking at a Telegraph just as an example. There's not a lot of education around that game, and you can see it. You can see it in the rankings, in the kind of transfers left and things. All the names at the top are all people in a kind of Hub WhatsApp group, and and names we kind of know and stuff. But anyway, sorry, going off piste. Just quickly show my team's plans. So I've got Pope in goals, Laporte, Rudiger, Cancelo, Coutinho, Saka, Kulusevski, Gallagher, Maddison, Salah and Kane. I've got 6 transfers left. I've got Salah captain this evening. If Matip starts, I will probably do Kulusevski to Matip. If he doesn't start, I will probably leave it and hope United score. For then, I was then looking. So on Sunday, I am very tempted to take out Saka for Thiago Silva. So Chelsea have a 4-1 over Arsenal, I mentioned, but I'm also tempted to take Laporte out for potentially Reece James, I think, and go get back to that 5-3-2. So it would be 3 Chelsea, 1 Liverpool, and Cancelo, and a 5-3-2. I still have Salah and Kane, still have Gallagher, Maddison, and Coutinho, who obviously finishes the season off really well. Leaves me with 3 transfers, but like I say, I'm not loading up on Chelsea then jumping off them again. I'll probably leave in a minimum of 2 of them until the end of the season. That's my current thinking, I think. Like I say, ranked 159.
I guess you're not playing a lot of cash leagues, right? And your main aims to finish top 100.
Exactly,
right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm not. Yeah,
I think that's sensible, like almost differential within itself to do.
Yeah, so I think that's my plan. Obviously we'll see between then and now. I think if I had more transfers, I'd potentially be tempted to jump on jump on a little bit more. If I had Son, I'd be tempted by Son to Werner or Mount, I think, as well. Or maybe Son go down to 5-3-2 and add another Chelsea defender, for example. But yeah, that's my current thinking there. The 4 Nations League. 6th place, my second team. 5th place, Dan on 2879. Liam is up to 4th, 2893. I'm on 2897, so it's incredibly close between myself, Liam, and Dan. Ian, after his weekend, jumps up to 294, so I think he's something like 55th overall now. Only 4 points behind you, Paul. So the tortoise has indeed started to gather pace. Paul on 2951, 45th overall. Very well played there, Paul. But there is definitely an English dragon crawling up towards Scotland, mate. There. Hub £500 League, 10th place, Nima Kafai up 22 places. He must have captain Ronaldo there. Also, Kieran Sutton up 16 to 9th. Must have captain Ronaldo as well, you'd guess. 8th, Shane White. 7th, Keir McKenna. 6th, Neil Durant. 5th, Billy Fraser. 4th, Peter Gilderdale. 3rd, Maurice Weeks. 2nd, Kieran Sutton. And top still, with probably, you'd guess, an unassailable lead now of 89 points. Is Liam Stevens. Sorry, just to point out, Arsenal do have a game day against Newcastle. A single game day against Newcastle. Yeah, that's on Monday, the 16th of of May, just pointing out the Arsenal things. I would probably look to to get an Arsenal player back there, but it probably is worth pointing that out. Well done, Liam. Looks like you are cruising there. And we're also going to now show the overall leaderboard, which is superb. 10th, Martin Boyle, who is in the chat today. 9th, Richard Hayes. 8th, Andrew Wright. 7th, Mark Wisdish. 6th, Dave Perrins. Simple Call, having a fantastic season. Well done, Dave. 5th, Alistair Simpson. 4th, Will Bonner. Well done, Will. Dream Team. 3rd is the Hubs. Thomas Kucharski, who is an incredible FPL player, who has been hovering between the top 10 and 20 for most of the season and has now struck, and he is flying. He is only 11 points now behind second, which is Perry Hart. Well done, Perry, who was in the chat last week, and Liam Stevens. Frog Skills FC has taken quite a big lead. What's that? 27-point lead now, Liam. So, but very, very tight, and well done to everyone there. You are having incredible seasons. Very, very well played indeed. That is it from us for this week. As usual, thank you all so much for watching and listening. Your continued support is much, much appreciated. And thank you so much, Paul, again, for your brilliant insight and thoughts. Where can people find you, Paul?
On Twitter at Paul McAnulty, 1 MCANULTY.
My Twitter handle is at FFH_Fergi. So this podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub, Sky and TFF YouTube channel, and also available on all major podcast platforms. If you liked what you watched, please click the like button. Remember, please press like. And remember to subscribe in the bottom right corner of the screen. And if you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast versions and leave some comments. Perry Hart is in the chat, says he's second overall, says he is hiding at work. Great to have you with us live, Perry, as usual. Our handles on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok are at FFH_HQ, and our podcast Twitter handle is at FFH_Sky. So please follow and feel free to ask any questions. Our website is fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, where you will find everything you need for fantasy football, all under one roof, including player comparison tools, the fixture ticker, up to stats, top player team reveals, and much, much more. We will be back next week, looking ahead to the remainder of Game Week 37 and looking ahead to Game Week 38. Stay safe, all. Good luck this weekend, and goodbye for now.